We're here visiting Filbert Street Community Garden in Baltimore to learn about honeybees. Charles DeBarber is the animal caretaker here. Along with being their primary beekeeper, he also cares for their chickens, waterfowl, turkeys, and even the goats that they have here. They have Maryland's largest community garden beeyard. We got our supplies from the shed, and of course we had to get our beekeeper's outfit on. Then we started by learning about the smoker.
Basically, what the smoke does is it has two functions. One, it's kind of like radar jamming. The bees are putting out this alarm pheromone at times, because one of the main ways honeybees communicate is through pheromone. Smells. When they put out a lot of alarm pheromone, it tells everybody be on alert, be defensive. Because honeybees are not aggressive, they are defensive creatures. And what this does is it makes it to where they can't smell that pheromone. So if there's smoke in the air, they stay nice and calm. And even if I have the hive open, they'll be looking at me going, well, there's no alarm pheromone, so this must be cool. Nothing to see here. The other thing that it does is there's a biological function inside of honeybees that tells them there's smoke, the hive might be on fire, so we better just be calm, go and eat, and if we have to evacuate, we'll have full stomachs because we're going to be missing meals for a few days. Is some pine straw to use. I also just have regular straw in the barn, which will get this thing burning forever. But we're just going to open up one hive over here. Hey, honeybees. Now, when you work a hive, you work a hive from the side or back. Like this is the front right here. Come here. Each hive, at least the large ones, are 50,000 bees. The smaller ones, not so many. Now watch, if you give them a little smoke, they'll go down and start eating honey. And you see they're calm. They're a domesticated animal. They don't really care much about me. Oh, it's a drone. That's a drone. He doesn't have a stinger. He's a male. Like the males, they're a small minority in the hive and they're not there year round. They don't have stingers to defend the hive. The women do everything. Drone. That's a handsome fellow right there who I can poke at because he can't sting me because he's a punk. He ain't got no stinger. So see how he has giant eyes? Yeah, that's how I kind of... the women, you got to think of honeybees like little Amazonians, little Wonder Women. Because these ladies, they defend the hive, they forage. The queen is also female, so she lays all the brood. They take care of all the brood, they clean the cells. There's mortuary bees, there's retainer bees that clean and feed the queen. Everybody here has a job. Just to see, you know, are these guys queen right? Are they building a queen? Queen right means that they have a laying queen, and it's one of the key things you're checking anytime you inspect a hive. Like these two are empty frames, so I'm going to pull these guys first. These are all frames, by the way. Hives used to be kept in baskets called skeps up until the 1840s, and you used to have to destroy the hive to harvest from it. Now we live symbiotically with them. So I can just pull a few frames, and like these guys are very calm and sweet. So we'll see what's up. Okay, see what we got here. Well, I'm seeing an emerged queen cell right here. That thing, which tells me they probably have a queen. This cap stuff is brood, that's babies. This is honey over here in the corner. This stuff that kind of looks like peanut butter inside the cells, that's pollen, that's your protein source. Look at that, that's so beautiful. This year we produced 25 gallons. So she's probably in here and I'm kind of looking out for her. She'll be a little smaller when she's not mated. But honeybees, you got to kind of think of them as they're an animal that goes into a cocoon. They start out as a little egg, they turn into a larva, they stay in the cell, they're taken care of, and then they get capped like this. And now you're seeing this one being born right here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's emerging, she'll emerge a full-grown adult. Like, pointing out, oh, that one has pollen on her legs right there, because she's a forager. She's just come back with her pollen. These guys that are still kind of whitish, that's a young bee that's only been born a couple days. Oh, this new one's being born right here. Coming on out. She's greeting the world. Bees have been around for 60 million years. Honeybees for 50 million. Very few species of bee keep honey. In fact, many are solitary. They don't live in hives. But these guys, they've been pretty unchanged for 50 million years because they're really good at what they do. Yeah, this is called a apivar strip.
What are they for?
Treating for varroa mites. Like, I want to make sure that these guys start their life cycle, because the varroa mite is one of the things that are really killing honeybees right now. And they're here in the garden. Like, because honey, honestly, that's a byproduct that helps, but it's very little of what the bees do for us. Their main contribution is they're pollinators. We've killed off most of the natives. They make pollination possible. They make, frankly, about a third of what we eat to 2/3 possible. And then on top of it, they pollinate a number of things that animals we eat. So they're a very important keystone species. And some live feral, which feral means it's a domesticated animal that lives in the wild, like a feral cat, for example. Cat is still a domesticated animal, but if it lives without people, it's feral. They're building new comb. So they're making wax. This is nectar that they got from plants, and they're going to turn that into honey. They have a queen. See how they're doing the kind of that torquing motion right there? They're letting off a pheromone called nasinoff. Nasinoff is the come here pheromone that they do when they signal for the queen. I normally see that during swarm season when I'm viewing honeybee swarms. But these guys are telling me there is a queen in this hive.
Is swarm season in the spring?
Yes. Like, that's where the hive will get crowded. It'll get backfilled with nectar and brood, and the queen will say, you know, it's kind of crowded here, so I'm going to take half the posse here and leave. And she'll fly out, they'll land on a branch somewhere, they'll look like a big blob of bees, and they'll send scouts out to look for a new home.
Do you think it's crazy how close we are to the bees?
And notice how they don't care about you? They really just want me to put this frame back and leave them alone. That's really what they want. But right now they're kind of used to dealing. If I need them to move a lot of the time too, one cool trick is you just blow very slightly on them. But you can see, here's a very new bee that was born today. There's probably another one being born over here, which means it's day 21 because it's like clockwork. There's one being born right there. Hello, newbie. How are you doing? I hope you have a very bee day.
How far do these bees travel in the area?
2 miles. 2 miles is where the furthest extent before they consume more resources than they could ever bring back. So they pollinate within a 2-mile radius of wherever they are. So a lot of South Baltimore, frankly. I'd argue most of Curtis Bay, Brooklyn, and a lot of northern Glen Burnie, all the way up to Locust Point, because my bees bring back a lot of black locust honey every year. Like, this is honey now because they've capped it and they've got it down to 17% water content. In fact, here's a good question: why do bees keep honey? It's them jarring food because they have to survive through winter. Like, eventually when winter comes, they're going to have to cluster into a ball and keep warm. And that's the food supply they eat during that time.
Do they ever get territorial, like against the other honeybees?
Not necessarily territorial, but what they can get is if there's a weak hive, they will rob it blind. They'll send out their bees to take resources from it. Like they will do that as a defense mechanism. In nature, they would prefer to be, I think it's about 2 to 3 hives per square mile. I think it's closer to 2. But they love warm nooks because they just want to be in a warm tree somewhere or in a wall. They really don't like doing it out on a branch or something like that because that's called an open air hive. That's very rare in Maryland. Pollinators, actually pollination. The way that you would do that, plant things that are great pollinators. Tulip poplar trees, black locust trees. I would argue, encourage your parents to, if there's clover out, let the grass grow a little bit. You don't have to mow it down. Like habitat destruction is one of the key things. But definitely pollinator plants. Education about them, because here are the key things honeybees are facing right now. One, habitat destruction. They don't got a lot of places that they can go get forage from. So us mowing our yards and not growing clover and not letting them have those plants is a big deal. You can mitigate that with trees like tulip poplar, where they get a lot of theirs in the region here, and locust trees. Letting honeysuckle grow in your fences, things like that. So long as they have a habitat. Other things are avoid pesticides outside, avoid them on your plants. There's a pesticide called neonicotinoids. It's a byproduct of pesticides. It's a neurotoxin for bees. Yeah, and the state is legislating against it, so support those efforts. Support forcing them to change that. Other key things are like monocultures and farming, where they'll have just fields and fields of blueberries. And if you and I tried to live off of blueberries, it wouldn't work out well, would it? Well, it's the same for them. They need a more diverse diet. So some farmers are kind of changing up how they do it by, on the outsides of their field, letting brush grow, or having nice little areas where they let other plants grow. Another key one are pests like varroa mites and that, which us beekeepers treat. And I'd say for the more extreme people that want to help, keeping bees is a great hobby. You can see it's definitely fun and it's relaxing to me. But giving a habitat to where you're caring for them. You're treating them from varroa each year, you're putting bees out there, and you're covering that 2-mile radius around your home and helping them with pollinators. So those foreign pests like varroa, you can only really combat them by keeping bees, in my opinion. Let me think. And on top of it, just letting people know that, you know, they're not the enemy. And I'm happy we live in an age now where people are more positive about honeybees, because when I was a kid, they weren't. Like people were just terrified of them, and some people that are even afraid of them now are like, oh, they're still very important, and I wouldn't bother them. That's a good opinion to have. People that end up having a honeybee hive in their wall, don't kill them. Like, call beekeeper, they might be able to come cut them out, move them into a box. You got to think of it, it's a domesticated animal that's just gone feral. They easily can be moved into something like this. And being out there and just being very positive about bees and teaching that, you know, they're a cornerstone species. Yeah. The honeybee, honestly, it is a beautiful, beautiful matriarchy. That's what honeybees are. It's ruled by a queen. It's all of its main parts. It's about 97% female. I think, especially the queen bee, is a damn good model for women, frankly. It's the best natural mascot you'll ever get for women. Once again, you got to think of them as little Amazons, little Wonder Women. They do everything, from laying the brood to defending the hive because they're the only one with stingers, to foraging, to retainer bees, to mortuary bees. They literally are the hardest working animals you'll meet as well. Their life expectancy in summer is about 6 weeks, as they literally work themselves to death. Every time they make a decision, it's not a selfish decision, it's what's best for the hive. And there's something to be learned there.
Thank you.
There are many wonderful things you can do to help the honeybee. You can also go to a local community garden and help them with projects around the garden. They do great things to help their local communities. Even in the heart of Baltimore, you can find one. Adding a bee bath right now is something that you can do for the honeybee. Just a shallow bowl with rocks or marbles and a little bit of water.